Live from the Pines, your favorite East Texas sports podcast, coming at you live tonight. Tonight we welcome special guest, Lufkin ISD Superintendent, Dr. Hockenberry. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Fantastic. How are y'all?
Pretty good. Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, glad to be here.
It's another Monday. I know some of y'all had the pleasure of having the day off. I think me and Dr. Hockenberry both had to work today. But
I know it was dreadful.
Yeah, it was a rough day. But Dr. Hockenberry, we're proud to have you here in Lufkin. I think you've been here. Does May make a year?
May 1st will be 1 year.
May 1st makes a year. So you're not shy from a small East Texas town. You've had your fair share of stops, Sherino, Longview, Center. So Lufkin, I know it's the best out of the few stops, but it's nothing new to you. So, Dr. Hockenberry, where did it all start at for you? As a kid, where'd you come from? How'd you get in the role you are today? What made you want to, become a superintendent?
That's a great question. I've been here 9.5 months and nobody has asked me that question yet. How did you become this? Right. So, great question. Grew up in Houston. Born there, grew up there, moved a couple of different places. Parents divorced in 7th grade. Lived with my mom. Stepdad entered the picture. Landed in Humble, Texas, toward the end of my 8th grade year. So I spent my high school years at Humble High School, the Wildcats, purple, white, right? Mm-hmm. Left there, went to SFA, purple, white.
Shout out to our guy, Robert Murphy from Lufkin at Humble.
Now you're talking. I don't know who that is, but sounds good.
He's the athletic director and head coach there.
All right. How about that? I was an 86 graduate. There was one high school in Humble at the time. Actually, two. If you count the entire district, Humble and Kingwood, I think they have about, 23 or 24 now?
Yeah, it's a lot of schools over there now.
I remember when the mall was built, for those that are listening that are in their 50s. That was a big deal when they were clearing those trees and putting in a mall. So went to SFA. I had two options, A&M and SFA. And at that time, college was a little easier to get into. So I would not get into A&M now. A&M is a very challenging school. So more competitive than ever was. But somehow I got into A&M. I didn't know how big of a deal that was. So I went to SFA. And glad I did. Got my undergrad, master's, and my doctorate at SFA. Met my wife. She's from Nacogdoches. And had my own business going at the time after graduation. Was mowing yards to make a little money while in school. And that led to a business. And a business led to money in my pocket. And then during some downtime, someone convinced me that I should maybe go to school and, give teaching a shot. And so I did. And used some of my life experiences is why I started to share those with the young people of that period of time. That my road was windy, took a while to get to where I needed to be, and I thought I could help kids, especially high school students, maybe not wander quite as far and wide as I did to get to where they needed to be. So started working in Huntington in 1994 as a high school science teacher. Kept my business for a while. Principal said, "Hey, why don't you go be a principal?" My principal said, "You got to be kidding me." Anyway, a little confidence. Went back to school, got my master's. Next thing you know, I'm an assistant principal, and I'm moving along and ended up in Center, Texas as a principal of 2 different campuses. And, why don't you be a superintendent? So, okay, I think I'll give that a shot. So started in Sherino back to Center, then Longview, and now Lufkin. So that's my journey. Okay. I can fill in any gaps, but that's a quick version.
So, Dr. Hockenberry, you hear the job in Lufkin's coming open. Ms. Torres is leaving, and, Lufkin needs a superintendent. What attracted you to want to come to Lufkin?
Well, Nacogdoches is home base for my wife. Her parents are still there. So first and foremost, you consider family when thinking about a job. And at a young age, Lufkin was the job. If you're going to be a superintendent, the best job was the Lufkin job, especially if you wanted to stay in East Texas. It wasn't even close. And so although that dream, I guess, at an early age or early stage of my career left, when it came open, and what was needed at the time, or what appeared to be that was needed at the time, matched what I had been able to accomplish in my 29-year career. And I thought it was a good match. It was a good match for what I thought I could bring, what the district needed, getting closer to my in-laws who are, 80 and 79. And it kind of came together. And that's what attracted me to it.
So, before we get into the main purpose, education, we're going to start with athletics and talk a little about what's going on in Lufkin with the athletics side. So, Coach Quick retires, and Lufkin needs a head football coach and athletic director. Right. We hired a consulting firm, Dr. Colwell.
Yes, sir.
And his search firm to cast a wide net across the state to get a really strong field of candidates.
Yes.
How did that play out?
Well, it played out perfectly for us. You want some details?
Yeah, we want some details.
Okay. So the purpose of the search firm was simple. It was to take in applications. Well, first let's start, Lufkin, the premier job in the state. AD head football coach. This is the number one job in the state of Texas when it comes open. It's remained that way throughout the entire search. So knowing that, and knowing that the best candidates are in high-profile positions at their current location, they need confidentiality. They need a system they can trust. And Dr. Colwell and his group, the respect that they have in the coaching world and in the education world, it was a perfect match for what we needed to go forward and bring about the best candidate, knowing all those things, and a lot of interest. So it also served as a filter. Once you hire a firm, they take in all inquiries, they take in all applications, they handle the front end of the work, which can be very intensive. And so with all the other things going on in the school district, this allowed us to continue that work while Dr. Colwell and his group did the front end work of the search.
So with the firm there, you say the confidentiality, Coach A touched on it. You have those people in the big high profile schools. Do they, because he talked about the Public Information Act, if you inquire about the job somewhere, it's made public. Is that kind of a stepping stone to get around that if they're at that high profile school and throw their kind of hat in the ring to see if that could be a possibility? Is that what helps with that?
I think, and I don't know if that's the intent. Like, I'll just use myself as an example. You really don't want your name out there.
Yeah.
You have a job to do back home, and that job's very important to you. So, you don't want to be disrespectful to your current role because you've got work to do. And so you don't want to be a distraction either at the same time. So I think it's more of allowing people to continue to do the work they're currently doing without a distraction to anybody. So I don't know if it's a way to circumvent that necessarily. That was not our intent. Our intent was, we knew it was going to be a massive, high interest search, and we needed some help on the front to organize it.
Mm-hmm. As far as the committee and you guys playing a big role in, making that decision, how big was it to find somebody to come in and basically start from the middle school level all the way up to the high school level, and as far as developing these kids and having them prepared, including all sports, but mainly, focusing on football?
Well, it may be the most important thing. There's a lot of key points that we were looking for. One of the key points was the middle school program. What kind of emphasis is placed there? What kind of attention is it given by the AD head football coach? What kind of presence are we going to have at the middle school by the AD head football coach and the varsity coaches? And we felt like that was a deficit for our school district, and that was something that needed to be addressed. So we were intentional in looking for somebody that had built programs from not even middle school, from youth programs up. So a strong program begins at the youth programs. It really starts to build at the middle school, and then you win championships at the high school. But you don't win a championship at the high school level without a strong middle school program. That's aligned vertically, horizontally, and there's engagement at all levels from the people you've hired to do the work.
As far as Coach Absek having the success in the past to increase the number of participation in football at the middle school level, how big of an impact do you think that'll make with Lufkin?
Well, I absolutely think it's going to make a huge impact. We hired him because of his championship recipe. It wasn't just the fact that he's won. It's the things that he has done to build championship programs. That's exactly what we were looking for. You will win championships if you build the program correctly. And so there's a perfect it's perfect in Lufkin. You have all the ingredients for a recipe for a championship success. You have, first and foremost, community support. All right, you've got that. You've got talented athletes in Lufkin. They're here. All right. And so you bring in a program that capitalizes, you have community support, you have talent, and then you have a system. Those three working together is how you win championships. Not just on the field, but in life too. And so it was a missing piece. And so the fact that he's won, it brings a lot of that's a big factor, but he built those programs. He did not inherit them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as guys like me and Trey and the rest of the people watching in the community of Lufkin, how can we help improve the facilities of Lufkin? I know the locker rooms, people harp about that. The visitor locker room, they're not climate controlled. We're lacking with facility as far as the weight room, our stadium. From what I've heard, that the press box is not ADA accepted. The stairs, it's hard to get up and down the stairs. They're steep, and the bleachers are they've been there since we were probably before, they've been the same since we were kids. And you look at our field and stuff, the turf, the track, and all that, it needs major improvements. And like you said, Coach Absek has did a good job in previous places building programs, but alongside that, you need the facilities to compete and to build these kids to have them ready to to compete. And that goes for football, baseball, basketball, softball. They're blessed. They have the pack now. But, our football kids, they have to sit there and look at these things. And baseball, basketball, softball has this. Why doesn't the football team have it? Why doesn't soccer get to, have the same facilities? And, it makes a difference when people come to our school, just like today's center in Silsbee playing at Lufkin, they see this big gym. It's nice. It's amazing. They go in there, they feel like they're playing at a college facility basically. And then you get into the football side, we go to football season, we bring these teams down here, and, everybody knows Lufkin as a powerhouse, the tradition of Lufkin football. And then you see our stands, like we talk about the restroom, the concession stands, all those things need improvement. And it takes a village, a community to, make things like that happen. If you look at Melissa, Salina, and all those other places, they're all growing. Today's times have changed, and we need those facilities bad in Lufkin. How can, the community get out and help and get involved and make this happen and possible for the kids?
Well, what you're doing right now is helping. The fact that we're talking about it is a great start. So we did, and I don't know how well known. I think it's fairly well known that
the committee was put together, and I'm sure you'll share some of the names on that committee.
And they've made some recommendations, and a big part of those recommendations is to improve the stadium and the stadium experience, the facilities related to the stadium, and the I think some of the comments that were made in the committee is that it isn't just a football field. It's the centerpiece of our school district. It's where at one time Abe Martin was reserved, almost every weekend throughout the year for some type of event, maybe other than football. So it's more than a football stadium, and I think that we have to remind ourselves of that, and that we're living in a different world today. And you spoke to that. We are in competition for students, for parents' interest in our school district, and facilities playing a part in that now. It may not have been as important 5, 10, 15 years ago, but I can promise you this: as people are going to schools in our area, in our state, and in our nation, and when they have the choices they have today, your facilities matter. And so you want the best facilities you can afford. And the fact that we're talking about it tonight is a great first step. But eventually the time will come that we're going to need to organize and communicate effectively across the entire community for some kind of support. Now, we're going to be able to do some things without community support, without financial support in the form of, a potential bond election or something like that. But major infrastructure improvements is not something that we can just pay for out of, fund balance or savings account or whatever you want to call it. We call it a fund balance. For others, it may be a savings account. So organizing a group of people that are active and interested in the facilities of our district and want to help promote the best that we can afford without overtaxing our community, we're going to need those people. Not today. We need to talk about what we need right now, but when the time comes, we're going to need to organize and go out and try to convince people we need these things. This is why. And remind ourselves that anything that we build is not solely for any one sport, even any one academic program. We share our facilities, all facilities, with many groups. Look at our auditorium, middle school auditorium, perfect example, right? It's been closed for 4 or 5 years. All right. Needed a lot of work. So the construction at the middle school helped, but there wasn't money set aside for lighting, sound, video. And so it was going to sit unfinished. Well, our financial position is better, although not fixed, and we were able to remedy that. And the middle school auditorium is now open and ready for public shows again, and that's going to launch. So that's a perfect example of what you can do when you improve your facilities. All the kids are going to come into that facility. They might be a Lufkin Panther if they're not already. And we need every student we can get. We're already the best district, right? I mean, we just we got to market ourselves better.
Yep, it's no doubt about that.
Facilities will help, and it'll help the student experience. It'll help with the fan experience. It'll help everybody.
And there's a lot of kids walking the hallways in, Lufkin ISD that one day might want to play on that field. They're going to graduate on that field. They might march on that field. But another thing we need to talk about also before we go away from that subject is there's a lot of kids in LISD that are involved with agriculture, and they don't have the asset to property and, state-of-the-art barns and, keep your pigs, your chickens, your cows, and all those things. And a FFA barn, an ag barn, is something that we truly need. There's a lot of kids I know in that ag building that have desires to show animals and be involved with FFA, but they just don't, they live in an apartment, they live in a subdivision, they live on the golf, different things out there. We need to have a way to be able to let these kids strive in agriculture, especially being a pipeline to Texas A&M University. Lufkin is all, I'll give you that one, but we have a lot of kids that could, benefit from these different facilities.
No question. I think if I were to be put on the spot, so I'll put myself on the spot. If I could do one thing right now at this very moment that would have the greatest impact on young kids and their future, it would be to give them the opportunity to raise animals if they so choose, show animals, to do something related in agriculture. And without an ag barn, so many kids are getting left behind. It can forever change your life. and if it's not something you do, professionally after high school or college, it's the experience growing up, and it's what you gain from it all is wonderful life lessons. And we're an economically disadvantaged school district, and you're exactly right. Most of our kids do not have a place so it's not even on their radar. They may not even know it exists. So an ag barn would open up so much potential for so many students, plus enhance the program we have at the high school. Right now, they're limited because of space as well. So I think we're not serving our kids to the best of our ability if we don't quickly jump out there and do something in the form of an ag barn. Look at our economy. Our local economy is agriculture.
Yeah.
And it's not just animals. So there's all forms of agriculture, but
horticulture.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's
Sign
like me personally. I got the experience to go to Cy Ranch High School my sophomore year, and I remember showing up, and Cy Fair ISD has their own ag barn, and coming from Lufkin, being blessed to be raised around agriculture and livestock my whole life and things. It's kind of funny how many kids get to high school, they don't play a sport, they're not in the band, they're not in robotics, they're not doing anything, and they're in FFA, and you're like me looking from the outside, this country kid from Lufkin, like, you show cows, you show pigs, like, it's just crazy how many opportunities it gave these kids. And it was funny, a lot of these kids ended up going to schools like Tech, Tarleton, A&M, San Angelo, and different places because they found a love for agriculture in middle school and high school, and they made a career out of it.
And the money. I mean, there's more money for scholarships in agriculture than any other subject. So and think about this. Boy, you got me going now. I got to be careful what I say. We are the premier 5A school district in the region. And we don't have we don't have a place for kids to raise animals. I promise you that. I mean, you've got the small schools around us do, the large schools around us do, but we're the premier school and we don't offer this up. Now, come on. We got to get with it. This is a big hole that we have in our system that we need to fix or we need to fill.
And there's a lot of kids, that grew up going to Lufkin, and we get to that age where, you get more competitive. You got Fort Worth, Santone, all these big shows, but you can't forget about your county show, Angelina County show. And you see these kids come from Hudson, Central, Huntington, and, they're walking, the school district are walking, 15 cows, per breed in the ring, or pigs and chickens, whatever you want to say. And you look at Lufkin, the numbers in our FFA program they're limited due to the fact that we don't have the resources. Like Miss Marshall does a great job, with the FFA program. I saw a video one time when I was in high school. A kid was showing pigs, I believe, and his parents hauled it up there in a Suburban, in the back of the Suburban. And you look at all these other schools, and I know Lufkin, we now have the privilege of having stock trailer and all those things, but you know how easy it would be for kids to be able to load, 6 cows at a time and haul them to the expo center or to the majors or whatever. And, your dad, you don't have to worry about dad and mom, having to haul you there, because that line at Fort Worth is crazy.
It is crazy. So you've been in that line.
I grew up in the agriculture life, but it's an experience most kids don't get to, have, and it teaches you so much responsibility. I remember being in high school, you got a baseball practice for school, you had to go feed horses, it was just part of it. You wanted to own them, you had to go feed them. And, you had to do all those things, and it comes with a job. And, I think our kids in Lufkin really need that, because we're losing kids to other districts due to the fact that we don't have the facilities to, provide these services for the kids.
Well, and that's part of the committee. They recognize that, and they're, one of their outcomes was a new CTE facility, including an ag barn. So, I'm hoping we can do an ag barn sooner rather than later. I know it's a discussion that will need to come up here in the next few months, as we've got to navigate some other things right now. But when we get on the other side of that, we're going to start talking about building this district up rather than having to, right size. We got to right size first, but after that, we're going to fly.
Mm-hmm. And we thank you for everything you've done so far. It doesn't go unseen for sure. But another thing we wanted to touch on, you started the job May 1st. It was a great time to start the job. Coach Kopp had the Lufkin Panther baseball team absolutely rolling. and you got to witness a district championship in baseball. And then, we go in the playoffs and we win a couple games. We make it to the third round, I believe. And then coming this year, we win a fourth round. Yeah, it's fourth round. I'm sorry. This year, we come into football. We win a district championship. Basketball's rolling. They're 33-2, I believe. We're getting ready to get on the road tomorrow and go support those guys. They bring a district championship home. Volleyball brings a district championship home. So you got to see a lot of success your first year. And, how big was that for you in this community?
Well, I'm not used to that. Coming from Longview, people assume that, oh man, Longview's great at everything. No, Longview's good at football. Everything else is different. So
Longview's been good at baseball recently.
Well, they had a good year before last, but I don't even know if they made the playoffs this past year. I'm not here to knock on Longview. Well, maybe just a little, but Lufkin needs to be proud of what they've accomplished and what they're able to do. It's not easy what's happened in the past year I've been here, or the 9 months. I mean, not to mention the state championship marching band for the third year in a row. I was at
Dr. Little and his band.
I know. And it was down to the wire. It was between Lufkin and Longview, and Lufkin leapfrogged Longview. We went into the finals number 2. Longview won, and we leapfrogged after the final march. So it's special, and that is further evidence of the community and the talent that's here. And you bring strong systems into it, then you're going to win championships. You may not win every year, but you're going to be on a championship level. And most of our extracurricular activities are. And it's hard to find. We need to be talking about the Lone Star Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be
talking. Coach A talked on
that. Coach A, he touched it for a while, and he talked about how big and important that was to him to bring that to Lufkin. So
yes,
that's something that was, not normal. We're not used to.
I didn't even know about it.
I didn't even know what the Lone Star Cup was.
Yeah,
so I didn't even know it was an option.
I mean, if you look at us, it's a collective of all the UIL events, right? So it's marching band, it's all the supporting events, it's academic UIL, it's cheer, it's robotics is part of that now, one act play. So all those UIL activities, which we compete at a high level, we need to be setting our bar very high and say we want to win a Lone Star Cup. And let's.
It's based off points, right?
It is. So you earn points. You make the playoffs. I think you get points. You win it. You go deeper. You get further. You go. You get points. So you add up all the points at the end of the year, and then.
Why haven't we been doing I'm not here to judge anybody or bash anybody, but it's just something we've never heard of. Why, with all the success we've had in the past, boys and girls athletics, marching band, robotics, and I didn't know this, but our robotics team's pretty good. I got to witness that last year in my leadership Lufkin class and got to see those things. But I didn't know these things. I didn't know that was an option.
It's not an option. You're automatically competing in the Lone Star Cup by being part of the UIL. What you may not know is that it's a competition within all competitions. So to win the Lone Star Cup means you have the best extracurricular programs in the state of Texas collectively.
So what outside of usual sports that we think of are included in that Lone Star Cup? You touched on the one act play. Is robotics a part of that?
Robotics is part of the academic UIL. So it's UIL academics, which includes robotics. It falls in there. One act play, which is theater, fine arts. You have the marching band. Then you have all the sports. And we participate in everything except swimming. No, everything but wrestling and water polo. So we participate in enough sports to where we can be competitive. And we already are. But we ought to start talking, all right, this next year, let's try to crack the top 20. Then let's, try to crack the top 10. But ultimately, we ought to be in the conversation with winning that thing.
So, Dr. Hockenberry, another thing I wanted to touch on. So, you being new to Lufkin, but having your fair, getting to spend the time at Longview and getting to see a winning football program and how big that means to the community. You're not a stranger to this, but you know how much football means to Lufkin. You know how much winning means to Lufkin, and the community is kind of divided with the football program in the past. You look at the stadium, you look at the stands, and you see, not as many people as you normally do. And, we're thankful for what Jam Media does, and they stream the games and everything. But how are we going to attack this next year by filling the stands up, getting the community involved, making people want to be there and see it up live and be a part of it?
Well, I think it starts on the front. I think we've already started, right? So change is here. It's already began. There's already an active presence and renewed interest in the system. I think the stands may not all be there immediately, but I think, winning cures a lot of that, right? And the program you put on the field. I think you're going to see a new brand of football. I know I'm not a coach, and I'm certainly not going to speak for Coach Absek, but, we're going to bring something that probably hasn't been it's been the same program for 30 years, and there's been a lot of great success in 30 years. By no means does this need to take away from last year was special, but it's a new era, and I think with a new era and some fresh air and high visibility and community engagement at all levels, I think that's going to really help a lot. And then you win, and then we have to market our system better, including what takes place on Friday nights. But I think we'll see. We saw some signs of what it can be like last year, and I think that's going to become a regular occurrence. I think the first home game is going to be very exciting.
Well, we get to go down the road to Longview. Your previous stop, the first game, and me and Trey were talking to Coach Avsik about it, and he's like, I've never been to Longview. And I was like, well, on a Friday night, it's not a place most people want to be. But as far as being a Lufkin Panther, it's somewhere we always want to be. We always want to be playing against Longview and Coach King because the rivalry there is exciting. It's exciting. It's respected. And it's just a big thing to us, getting to go play Longview and hear that horn blow. And hopefully we don't hear it blow a lot this year. And we look forward to that. But another thing before we go over to education and start talking about the education side of Lufkin, what's this deal going on around town? We've been hearing about you're working hand in hand with the athletic director, head football coach, and bringing a strength and conditioning coach to the program to work with the middle school all the way up to the high school kids.
Something we need. We want to compete at the highest level. Strength and conditioning and nutrition are part of the program, and we currently don't have that. Not as a system that is defined for both boys and girls for every sport at middle school and high school. And that's a specialty that we need. That's a specialty that other school districts competing at a high level already have. And so we don't have one, and we're going to get one. An expert.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of people that know how to lift weights and know what to, hey, eat better, lift some weights. We've got some programs, but, we want to be, we're going to win some championships. We're going to have a championship strength and conditioning and nutrition program. Coach Absek the other day, we're meeting, and this is just stuff I'm learning from him. He said, I need to get chocolate milk 5th period every day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. What do you, he goes, how can I get chocolate milk? I said, well, we find out. I said, you mind me asking him? He said, our kids are lean, but they're not fit. And he goes, after we work out, they need to be drinking chocolate milk after 5th period athletics every day.
And that's something we used to do.
So chocolate milk, man, we need some chocolate milk.
Let me tell you something. You got a guy. You got a guy working for you right now. He's a pitching coach and economics teacher, I believe. Colton Eberlin. You need to talk to that man. He is the milk. His daddy is the milk plug. You just holler at him, and they'll take care of all your milk needs.
Man, we need milk. And so I said, Coach, how do you know that? He said, well, My good friend is the such and such, I think, strength and conditioning coordinator at the University of Texas, works with all their athletes. He said, so.
They just paid him a lot of money today to keep him from going to the NFL.
Dadgum. Are you serious?
They
Anyway,
did.
Coach Absek's got him on speed dial. So he said, what do I need to do? He said, they need to drink milk after every workout.
Yeah.
So
we used to get peanut butter sandwiches and two peanut butter sandwiches and 2 chocolate milks when we were in school. That's what we got after workouts.
Dadgum. Well, anyway, we need that now. So we need some milk.
You'd be surprised how many kids look forward to eating that peanut butter sandwich, drinking that chocolate milk before they went home.
Yeah. Yep. They've got to do it within the first hour, he said. So see, I learned that. I knew you have to eat, but I didn't know specifically chocolate milk because of the protein content in it.
Yep.
I think is what he said. So yeah.
We've always had some really big kids, athletic kids, but all the things that you're talking about with strength and conditioning, the chocolate milk and all those things, that's going to play a big role because, you look at these next level teams and college level and even at the high school level, you get how you train. Like these guys are, like you said, state-of-the-art training facilities. They have a strength and conditioning coach at most places, and they're getting the right nutrition because that's a big thing. And I saw a video on YouTube the other day. It was in high schools. They had like Gatorade power bars, and they had little Gatorade power shakes. And like as soon as you got done working out, there was somebody handing you one as you walked out of the locker room. Everybody's just getting one, and it works because if kids are getting out of workouts, they did all the things that you've had them do training wise, and they're going to McDonald's, Burger King. They're basically eat like me and Trey used to eat. He's on the health kick right now. But you're not winning anything from that. You're basically bettering your body than hurting your body. Mm-hmm. And at 16, 15, 17 years old, you can't control that you can't go home and eat, fish and vegetables or chicken and vegetables. You can't control those circumstances. So therefore, we have to have a way to give these kids the opportunity to put the right nutrition in their body.
Yep. You're right. I'm going to tell you a story. I did some reference checks on Coach Absek. We're thinking about hiring him. So I got to call some people, said, tell me about him. Tell me what I need to know. And one of his references I spoke to, I said, what am I going to notice sooner rather than later if we hire him? He said, the thing you're going to notice first is the difference in the athletes, the strength and conditioning of the athletes, the nutrition program, and what it does for the kids. He goes, it's going to be quick. They're going to put on muscle. They're going to get faster. They're going to have better endurance. He goes, you're going to see that faster than anything else. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, before we switch over to education,
I might need to join that.
I just want to say one thing. If you're watching this show and you have a kid in the district, pay attention to all the things that Lufkin's trying to do to better the kids athletically and education-wise. And, there's no reason, to be sending your kids to all these other schools that surround us. Send your kids where they live at. Make sure they be a Lufkin Panther. It builds character. It builds pride in them. They fight for something that means a lot. And to be a Lufkin Panther means a lot in this community. Trey, I'll let you take over.
Yep. Jalen touched on all the academic stuff, but at the end of the day, athletic stuff. At the end of the day, academics is what everybody does. So Jalen and I, obviously, we're too young. We don't have any kids in the district, so we don't know what happens day to day on any of these campuses.
When we do have kids, they will go to Lufkin, though.
Absolutely. Speaking for, LISD, what's kind of the biggest challenges that are facing the district right now? I know there's some, I think we've already talked about closing 2 elementary schools. What is the biggest challenge facing Lufkin ISD at the moment?
Well, the biggest challenge is still, it's financial, it's finances. But let me clarify that, because finances are complex. So we still, when I talk about right sizing, I'm talking about, with the number of students that we have and the number of programs that we offer, what is the right size of our school district that we can give the best programs for the money that we have. And so right now, and even though we've made great progress and we're in a much better place, we still have some right sizing to do. We have, our schools at the lower grades, middle school and high school have lots of kids in them, right? I mean, but our elementary schools, which we have the neighborhood schools, which are, and each neighborhood has a sister pair. They're underutilized and under enrolled. And so we have to start there. We just don't have the students to sustain the number of campuses that we have. So, part of our committee was to look at our footprint and right size. And we're approaching a period where, a final decision could be made sooner rather than later to close campuses, a couple, and those have been identified if we do it. And so doing that, but there's more to it. Lufkin's had a lot of luxuries, and I say this out of the utmost respect. Some of the luxuries that have been here in the past have been adult-centered rather than student-centered, and we just can't afford that. If you have all the money in the world and the state is giving us the money that we need, and listen, a big part of our problem is the state. All right, they're not funding the schools like they need to, but our issue right now, and we're finishing our work. We have to control the things that we control really well, and we're about to finish that work. So we are about to exit the part where we have done all that we can do to streamline our operations without compromising the education of kids. So once we do that, then it's left strictly up to our elected officials to provide us the funding that we need. But we still have some right sizing to do. And so we have to look at our footprint. We have to look at our numbers of positions versus our number of kids and align those. We still have some work there. But I expect us to complete that work, this spring. And then, we're gonna fly. And so, but it sounds like, what I don't want to do is to misrepresent. We have. It doesn't mean you don't spend money because you need to right size your district. You still have to spend money to provide the best education and provide the best resources possible for the students, the staff, and the community. So right sizing is exactly what it is. What is the right size of our school district right now? And we're not there, but we've got to do that work. Yep. But we've got to spend some money too. We need an ag barn, right? Yep. We've got to replace the turf on the field. We're not going to play football next year. People last year questioned the turf to begin with. I'm hoping we just get to play every football game on it. So we have to spend some money, but we also have to right size at the same time. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Can you tell?
Yeah. Well,
but there's purpose there. I promise you.
Mm-hmm. Quick question: as far as closing these schools, wouldn't it make it easier on parents that have kids in, primary, elementary? You got a kid going to Dunbar. You got a kid going to Dunbar and Brandon. Wouldn't it make it easier on these parents if they just had to go to one stop?
Well, I think so. And we did some parent surveys. And so there's a lot of interest to realign our grade levels.
Yep.
K-5. So, but how much can we take how much change at one time can you take enough, right? You don't want too much change. You don't want, there's a tipping point. And so you don't want to overchange and then lose your momentum, lose the support that you need from the community and from the parents. And so right now it's kind of, informally staged out, close the schools, right size the footprint, and then the following year, look at moving to a K-5 alignment. And think about what that would do for a parent. One, you're going to have a 6-year investment at a campus with one child. It's going to prevent or at least lessen the burden of transferring, taking kids all over the place. I think academically, it's a good alignment. I think for parents, it can certainly help with, maneuvering children across the district at different schools.
Mm-hmm. You touched on, trying to right size, but also spend money. What a big thing is teachers, and I've talked to people, a bunch of people our age. They're starting off as teachers, going around. Salaries starting in Houston and Tyler is a substantial difference than what's happening in Lufkin. What are we doing to get teachers to come to Lufkin and stay in Lufkin?
Well, I mean, that's one, environment is a big piece, but pay's a big one too. So, it used to be, well, pay's not everything. Well, pay's not everything, but let me tell you what, it makes a big difference when one district's paying $30,000 more than your district. So we have fallen off of that pedestal where we were the highest paid in the area. We're well below market. We are not competitive with our salaries right now to where we can even keep people that want to be here, right? So, our biggest draw are people that want to live in East Texas. They don't want to go to Houston or Dallas or Austin or San Antonio, where the bigger salaries are. But we have to do much better. Part of the right sizing process will free up the resources. So, if you're not spending as much money and so what are you going to do? Well, one is we're going to increase salaries. So we have to be more competitive. It's already a hostile environment for teachers across our state and nation for factors beyond our control. What we don't need to do is to contribute to that. We have to do better.
Yeah. You talked about school funding, and this was, I've talked to teacher friends. One was a principal in the district for a while, and she said talk about vouchers. And I know Jalen and I know nothing about vouchers. People talk about vouchers.
I literally just heard about it when everybody was
Yeah.
talking about it because of Trent Ashby and all those things.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge talking point with Texas legislature. What our governor is trying to do and what's going on with that. Can you kind of explain to us, and maybe, if our friends are watching this, I know they're in the same boat we are. Explain in layman's terms what this voucher situation is doing to LISD and just the kind of the whole encompass of what it means.
Well, I guess I need to start with what is a voucher.
Mm-hmm.
So a voucher is, there's this money that goes into state money, taxpayer dollars, right? Taxpayer dollars and so the state has all this money and a budget. So part of their budget is public education. Well, a voucher is, they would peel off some of the public education dollars and give them to parents to send their kids to private schools. I'm adamantly against that. Everything I stand for, part of why I got into this was I just can't buy into it. I think it's bad practice. I think it's a precedent that once we start, it's going to be a runaway train. I don't think we're going to be able to control it. And when I say we, it's not the schools, because we haven't really been given a voice. We kind of state our claim, but there's so much pressure. Vouchers are likely to come, but they're talking about $1 billion. They're going to peel off of the top of public ed funding to fund a voucher scheme. So $1 billion across every school district, excuse me, that's a substantial, just that money alone, based upon our ADA, is a substantial amount of money. We're talking, it's a huge sum of money. Mm-hmm. And it isn't just private. So how they define it, is it going to be just private schools? Is it going to be home schools? Excuse me. So at its core, I think it's a bad practice. I think we have a responsibility to fund our public schools at a high level. And until they're funded where they should be, then we shouldn't even consider other things. So now, do I think vouchers are coming? Yes, I do. And I think that's unfortunate. So if they're coming, so we have to do the best we can to help our legislatures write a plan that does not or that limits the harm to public ed. We got to put some guardrails on this thing. So you're going to take $1 billion of money and peel it off the top. Where's the accountability? All right, we have accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolute accountability. Our kids have to perform. If they don't perform, they write bad stories about us. They just rake us over the coals. So they're going to peel $1 billion off and have no account. So if they're going to do it, which I think they are, put some guardrails, put some accountability in there. Our taxpayers, if it's going to be their dollars, then they should demand accountability for their money if it's going to go somewhere.
So as far as Lufkin ISD, like what private schools do you have to offer except St. Cyprian's? I think Piney Woods is a charter school, correct? Does that fall into the same circumstances?
I mean, no, it's charter schools are funded differently. But I do think that what you could have if there's no guardrails, you can have some pop-up schools. People, these are all for profit now. So I would be very worried that $1 billion is going to go out into the free market in the form of providing education for kids. And there's some really good articles out there. And obviously I'm in public ed, so I'm not a big fan of vouchers. And there's some arguments, and there are a few cases where vouchers are successful. But people need to do their homework.
Yep.
There's a lot of risk there. And I think I heard it best when someone said this is welfare for the rich. And people that are already sending their kids to private schools, that's great. That's their choice. I have no problem with people choosing schools. We're in competition. We need to win that battle. But to start peeling off $1 billion of our dollars that we already don't have enough of to give, and I think that's going to create a very difficult situation that's already very, very bad.
Yep. Well, that's a lot of what I've heard talking about it is, welfare for the rich has popped up, and just could be a misuse of funds where when you have no responsibility, what is
no responsibility, no accountability.
Yeah.
So you're going to defund your public schools and then give $1 billion of vouchers with no accountability?
Yeah.
I mean, that just seems unethical to me.
From the outside looking in, not having any clue about the public school system and the private school system, but the way I look at it is, most people that send their kids to private school can afford to send their kids to private school. And I can speak for me and others, very much so. We benefited from going to public school. Like, coming from the background we came from, basically, not necessarily sheltered or anything, you got a chance to see a lot of different things you want in public school. And it not so, harmed you, it prepared you for when you got to the real world. Because I know when we got to college, there's a lot of my buddies that went to smaller schools surrounding Lufkin. It was a culture shock. And, the demographics, the amount of people you're around, it all plays a big part in today's society and life as far as, in the work fair and everything. You got to know how to be around anybody and everybody, in my opinion. I think kids should go to school with, the same kids they ride bikes with in their neighborhood, the same kids they grow up playing sports with, and all the extracurricular activities you do. I just think I butchered that. I just think there's so many opportunities you gain from going to public school, and especially a school like Lufkin, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I agree with that. And listen, let me go back and just say this again. I really don't have a problem with private schools. I've got some friends that their kids go to private schools. I have friends that work at private schools, and I really and most of them give great education, right?
I went to private school K through 5th grade.
So, but I think you've hit on something that's very important. And this is something I've tried to, my kids, for example, everybody's going to enter the world eventually.
Mhm.
The world. I mean, the
It's
world
real.
is the world. So you want to know what the Lufkin community is like? Then walk our halls.
Yep.
Because our community is in our schools. And what better way to prepare yourself for a life after school than to be within our community every single day in our hallway?
Yep.
I don't know. That was always a big thing for me. And it was very important that my kids had experiences with all walks of life so that they're better prepared for life, because it's going to arrive at some point, whether you want it to or not. Life
comes
is going to
quick.
show up, and it's going to
Mhm.
come quick. And
Yep.
and those that are ready for it and able to adapt and able to understand different cultures and all those things, I just think they're better prepared.
Yep.
But again, there's some great things out there. But you go to college, I mean, wow.
It's big.
Yep.
Big, it can be.
Mom and daddy's not there to hold your hand anymore.
And they don't want to hear you either.
No.
He got a 79. Well, can he retake the test? No.
No.
He ain't retaking the test. Well, we paid for the class. I don't care.
Yeah. It's college. Yeah. College is a whole different ballgame.
It is.
Yep. Well, looking back on, your time so far there, what can you draw on and look at what you've done so far and say, hey, that was a win for the district? We've been talking about downsizing, but what's something good that's come out of it?
I think that's a good question. I guess I haven't had time to reflect.
Financially, we look a lot better.
Well, we're better financially, but we're not well. We're not where we need to be, but we're heading in that direction. We are controlling the things that we control much better. We have our hands on the steering wheel now. So we're driving the bus instead of the bus driving us. That's a good thing. But I think maybe the most important thing, if I reflect back, is that people are starting to believe in the district again. We still have a long way to go to win back trust. Mm-hmm. But I think we're starting to. I think we're more transparent. I'm very transparent tonight. I have to be careful sometimes. But I want people to know that we're going to be a very authentic, student-centered district. That our every ounce of who we are is going to be invested in children. And there's work that may look like it's not directly related to children, but everything that we do must be. And our finances are important. So the committee work that we've done has been hard, but great. Not hard in a bad way, but when you involve people in decision making and you open up your school system and you're exposed, I think you build relationships that are strong and lasting, even though you may not always agree on everything, but you're building the kind of capacity with the committee and community that builds that strong foundation so that you can build that great school district that you want to have. I think that's the most impactful thing that I'm seeing. And frankly, this is the most giving and nicest community I've been in 6 school districts. And this is the most giving and compassionate school district I've ever experienced. Yep. But that already existed. That was noticeable when I got here.
Well, Dr.
Hockenberry, hands on
Hockenberry,
the wheel now and headed in the right direction.
We got our hands on the wheel. It's a team effort. Yep. So, but we're making progress.
Well, Dr. Hockenberry, we thank you for your time tonight. Before we let you go, we want to give a shout out to our guy JT McManus, Coach McManus, and his team. They're preparing to go play in the first round of the basketball playoffs. We know it's not going to be an easy match, but we trust in our guys. They haven't had the success they had this year, easy, but they for sure, have did it. And we look
Mhm.
forward to that. And we hope the community gets behind this group and gets out and supports them. Athens is only 2.5 hours away. So,
Yep.
the game doesn't start to 7:30. You get off at 5 o'clock. You got plenty of time to
I
get there.
just
And
think you'll
support
be
these
home by
guys.
midnight.
Exactly.
I was thinking
Maybe.
about that on my way home. I was on the phone talking to someone. I was like, God, the game starts at 7:30. Game will be about 9:30, 10. We're gonna be cutting it, close getting home. But I wouldn't. There's nothing other I'd rather do than go support those kids tomorrow and watch them play, and hopefully they come out with a big W. So
Yeah.
before we go, shout out to those guys, and thank you to Austin Brown and the guys at Zilker Belts. We thank y'all for all y'all do for the show. Go to www.zilkerbelts.com and use discount code PINES936 for all online orders to receive 25% off on the Zilker belt. Dr. Hockenberry, again, we thank you for everything you do and coming on the show. And the community really thanks you and sees the improvement you've made.
Well, it's a team effort, so we've got some work to do. We'll keep going. It's been fun. The best is yet to come.
Well,
Yes,
like you said earlier, we're getting ready to fly, and we're going to bring a championship back to Lufkin soon.
There you go.
Yep.
Sounds
All right,
good.
y'all. Have a great night.
Take care.